everyone, we're going to continue looking at friendships and families and recapping over the prior learning we have already explored. So the past few days we've been looking at friendship in particularly, okay, and thinking about what makes a good friend. And yesterday you were starting to write down some ideas and some different acts that friends had done that made you think, oh yeah, this person's a really good friend. And I had lots of lovely things sent through to me, such as that a good friend is someone who picks you up when you fall down at playtime. A good friend is someone who helps you carry things when you drop things. A good friend is someone who helps you when you feel sad. I had lots and lots of lovely ideas through, so thank you for sending me them all. It was so lovely and brought a little tear to my eye to make me think, oh, what a lovely bunch of year ones we have got in school. So we're going to continue with this theme of friendship today, and we're going to explore a little bit and think about, should we always do what our friends tell us to do? Okay, which is quite a big question to think about and explore, but I do want us to spend some time thinking about this. So I've got some key words up on the board that link to this and what our friends are asking us or telling us to do, and thinking about these words that we might use to explore whether we think that we should always do what we're told. So here, the first word that you can see on the screen, I'm just going to underline for you, is the word respect. Okay, if you're being respectful towards somebody, then it means you're being considerate and you're thinking about other people. Okay, so you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about others around you as well. This word here in the middle that I'm underlining is include. And if you include people, it means you're not leaving anybody out. It's the opposite to leaving people out. So being inclusive and including people is making sure that everybody is involved. Okay, and the opposite of include here, look, is leave out. So here we've got 3 seagulls, then one on their own. So one is being left out, which is something that we talk about a lot, that we don't really like leaving people out. It's not a kind thing that we want our friends to be doing or that we want us to be doing. Another word that we might think about or use today is polite. And if we're being polite, it means we are using our manners, such as please, thank you, and being kind in the language that we use, okay, and being appreciative and showing that. We've also got the word exclude. So exclude is similar to leave out. If you're excluding somebody, you're leaving them out from doing something. Okay, you're excluding them from the group. You're leaving them out from the group. For example, at playtimes, if you were playing a game, you might have a group of people and someone comes over and asks to join, and you say, no, thanks, I don't want you to play with me. And then you're going to exclude them, so leave them out from the group. We've also got this final word here, which means listening. Okay, so if you're listening to other people, you're using your ears and you're taking in what they're saying. So we're going to be using some of these words today to think about whether we should or shouldn't always do what our friends tell us to do, and thinking about whether we're doing it and the consequences of those actions. So for example, if our friend tells us to do something, how does that make other people feel? Or what are the consequences of that? So for example, if we do something that our friend has told us to do, is that us being respectful? Is that us including people, or is that us excluding and leaving people out? So these words are definitely going to be useful today. So I've got a story that I'm going to share with you called Strictly No Elephants, and I've got it here. So I'm just going to close my screen down so I can read it together. And it's all about friendships and what makes a good friend, and whether we should always listen to what our friends tell us to do. And here on the picture at the front, you can see a young boy and his elephant, and it looks like they're going to walk up to a sign. And this sign says, Strictly No Elephants. I haven't read this book, so I'm not too sure what will happen at the end, so I need you to pay really good attention. The trouble with having a tiny elephant for a pet is that you never quite fit him. I don't know about you, but I haven't got a tiny elephant as my pet at home. No one else has an elephant. from this in the windows here. This little girl's got a bird, a cat, a goldfish. This young man's got some puppies. But this little boy that we're looking at has got an elephant. Every day I take my elephant for a walk. He is a very thoughtful sort of walk. How kind is that? The elephant is holding the umbrella up for the little boy when it is raining. He doesn't like the cracks in the sidewalks much, so the sidewalks are paths, okay? I always go back though and help him come over them. That's what friends do. We lift each other over the cracks. You see the boy here, he's lifting up the elephant, he looks very heavy. Today I'm walking my tiny elephant to number 17. It's Pet Club Day and everyone will be there. So look, he's dressing him up, putting him in his scarf, and he started walking him down the street with everybody else and their pets. Come along, there's a good boy. I coax him, that means I encourage him over the last few feet. He'll be fine. When I look up, there's a sign on the door. Strictly no elephants. And a big red cross over the elephant and a very disgruntled looking lady here. My tiny elephant leads me back to the sidewalk, never minding the cracks. That's what friends do. They brave the scary things for you. So the elephant this time doesn't mind walking over the cracks in the sidewalk because he's a bit sad and he's a bit upset. And you can see here, hopefully in my picture, that now it's starting to rain and everyone's feeling a bit miserable. Even my elephant has a very glum expression on his face. Oh, did you try to go to the pet club meeting too? The little girl asks. Yes, I say, but they don't allow for elephants. The sign didn't mention skunks, the girl said, but they don't want us to play with them either. They don't know any better, I tell her. This little girl here has got a skunk on her knee, and a skunk is an animal that if it sees any danger or thinks it's under threat, then it lifts its tail up and it lets out a really stinky smell. So maybe that's why they don't want the skunk in their pet club. He doesn't stink though, the girl adds. No, he doesn't, I agree. What if we start our own club? That's a good idea, isn't it? Because they've both been left out. Come along, I say, making certain that my tiny elephant follows me, because that's what friends do. They never leave anybody behind. Wow, can you see all these children and all their different animals? So we've got a giraffe, an armadillo, hedgehog, a penguin. My goodness, they've got lots of obscure pets, haven't they? We can play here, one of our new friends says. All of us. And if you can see here in this picture, we've got a lovely tree house and a rope swing, which looks lots of fun. So we paint our own sign. And on this sign here, it says, strictly no strangers and no spoil sports. And it's crossed out. So that's crossed out and it says, all are welcome. So everybody can go to this tree house. So they're not discouraging anyone from coming in. My tiny elephant will give you directions if you need them. Look, here's the young man and here's his elephant. And they're letting everybody in to play together. Because that's what friends do. Oh, that's a fantastic story, isn't it? So let's just have a little recap and a little summary about what's happened. So at the start of the story, the little boy took his elephant to a pet club. And they were really excited about it, weren't they? But unfortunately, when they got there, they saw this sign on the door and it said strictly no elephants, so they weren't allowed in. So because of that, he met another little girl who wasn't allowed in because she thought her skunk might smell. They went and created their own place to take all the pets, and everyone was welcome, which I think was a very, very friendly and kind thing to do. So let's explore this story a little bit more, and I've got a few questions for us to have a little think about. I'm just going to pop them up on our screen now. So the first question I want us to think about is, in what way have the boy and the elephant been good friends? Well, what you can do now is, as I'm going through these questions, you can stop them and answer them, or you can listen to my explanations, okay? So in what ways have the boy and the elephant been good friends? Well, they've looked out for each other, haven't they? For example, the elephant was brave and he walked along the cracks in the sidewalk when the boy was feeling sad. And the elephant had held up the umbrella for the boy. The boy was also a bit sad when he saw the sign on the door. Therefore, he started his own club for everyone to join. Okay, so he was kind to not just each other, but also to other friends who had also been excluded. So he wanted to include everybody, didn't he? Which is one of those words we had before. Why did they become friends with the girl and the skunk? Well, I think they became friends with the girl and the skunk because they had both been excluded, hadn't they? That word we had before, they'd both been left out. So they both wanted to be included. So they wanted to help other children because they didn't want them to feel sad like they felt sad. And here it says, how did they treat the people who have been unkind to them at the beginning? Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes if people haven't been very kind to you, then you might be encouraged to think, oh, I'm going to behave that way back. But actually, the little boy and his elephant had decided that they were going to include everybody, okay? And they were actually kind to the people who possibly weren't very kind to him at the start. So I've got some situations now that I want us to have a little think about. And it's linking back to that idea that sometimes it's quite tricky because we've talked about what friendship means and how important they are. And friends sometimes ask us or tell us to help us with things or ask us to do something, which we may be unsure as to what to do. And we also might be unsure as to what to say back. So this session today, we're going to explore what we should do and what we should say when our friends ask us to do something. Okay, and I've got different scenarios for us to have a little think about. So here on the screen, we've got what should you do and what should you say, and a little clue there. And it's thinking back to that story that we've just read and thinking about what that little boy did and what the little elephant did. Okay, and thinking about how we can be good friends as well. So here underneath, I've got my scenario, and it says that someone tells you to get a teacher because they are hurt. So your friend has asked you to get a teacher because they are hurt. So have a little think. What do you think you should do in that situation? And then what do you think you should say? So pause the video. So someone tells you that they need to get a teacher because they are hurt. What should you do and what should you say? So pause and have a little think. Okay, right. So in terms of what should you do? So if somebody is hurt, first of all, you need to make sure the person is okay or that they are safe. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. Then, if somebody is hurt and they're asking for help, then you need to go and get help, don't you? Okay, the right thing to do would be to go and get help. So go and get help. And also, once you've done that, maybe you need to come back and make sure that that person has somebody around them or some company so they're not on their own. Okay, because sometimes when you hurt yourself, you might be a bit upset and you don't want to be lay on the floor. If you've hurt your knee, for example, and you've fallen over, you don't want to be sat on the floor on your own. So make sure that person has somebody with them. So make sure they are not alone. You also might want to help them up. Help them up if they are on the floor. Because if it's wet and you fall over at wet playtime, it's not nice to be sat on the floor, is it? So in terms of what should you say, I would reassure them. Reassure your friend. So tell them that it's okay, tell them that they're going to be all right, and just giving them some nice, kind words. I'd also tell them what you are going to do. So tell them that you're going to go and tell the adult. And you also might ask them what has happened. That's another thing you might say, mightn't it? Just so that then when you go and ask the teacher, you can say to them what has happened. So you might have different ideas on this, okay? And that's absolutely fine. But these are the ideas that I've had. So if someone tells you that they need to get a teacher because they're hurt, you might help them up off the floor, make sure the person's okay and safe, go and get help, and make sure they're not alone. And then in terms of what should you say, you might reassure them, you might tell them what you're going to do, and then ask them what has happened, okay? So I've got another situation here now that I want you to have a little look at, a little think about, and then pause, okay? So here I've got, someone says that if you don't play by the rules, you're not allowed to join in. What should you do and what should you say? Let's have a little think. Someone says that if you don't play by the rules, you're not allowed to join in. Okay, so pause it if you want some thinking time. So in terms of what should you do, I would ask them to explain the rules. It's hard, isn't it? Because if you're wanting to play a game and it's quite prescriptive, making sure that people can win or lose, you need to make sure that the rules are followed, don't you? So you don't really want anyone cheating. So that's probably why they're saying that you need to make sure that you're following the rules. But also, if you make a mistake, that's not necessarily your fault. And you don't want to feel like you can't make a mistake. So maybe you could ask to be buddied up with someone, to be a buddy, or ask to have a buddy to help you understand the rules. What could you say? You might be polite. You might ask questions about the game. Sometimes, and this is okay, you might not want to play. Okay, so maybe something you should do is decide on whether you want to join in. Because it is okay if you have explained and asked to see the rules and you don't understand it or you're not keen on it, it is okay that you don't have to join in as well. So recapping back on this one then, so someone says that if you don't play by the rules, you're not allowed to join in. We could ask them to explain the rules, ask to have a buddy to help you understand the rules, decide on whether you want to join in, and you need to make sure you're polite and you ask questions about the game. Okay, I've got one more now. This is quite a biggie. And this one requires a lot of thinking. And it says, someone asks you to sneak into their big brother's room and take their toys. So have a little think. What would you do? So your friend has asked you to sneak into their big brother's room and take their toys. What would you do? Well, I'm going to start with what should you say? So first of all, I'm going to say I'd ask why. So I'd ask my friend why they want to do this, because it isn't a very kind thing if you're sneaking into your big brother's room and taking their toys, but they might have a reason. For example, they might say my brother doesn't want to give it to me, or my brother won't let me play with them. And if they explain it, then you can help fix the problem more, because you could go and So you could suggest speaking to an adult or speaking to their parent. Because then if you speak to an adult, then they might be able to suggest things and they might be able to make it so that you can play with those toys. I think you need to be calm. I think if you decide not to take them, you need to explain why you shouldn't take things. In terms of what you should do, I would keep calm and I would listen. I would also not take the toys. Okay, so I wouldn't sneak into anywhere and take the toys. I'd suggest different toys to play with. And I've already popped here that explain why you shouldn't take things. Okay, so let's recap that one. So someone asks you to sneak into their big brother's room and take their toys. So I would ask why they want me to do that. Suggest speaking to an adult, their mum or dad. Explain why you shouldn't take things. I'd listen, be calm, and suggest different toys to play with. Okay, so you might have different ideas or even experience of this as well, which would be great to listen to. So this is your task today, and it links on to what we have just been exploring. Okay, so going back to our book, Strictly No Elephants, and you know, that idea of being excluded or included, and what we can do to make sure that all our friends are included, but also when we're put in tricky situations, how could we react? So what do we need to do and what do we need to say? So I've got 3 things up on the screen for you to do, and I've popped this on the school website so you can use it, okay? And here it's got what should you do and what should you say, and 3 different scenarios. So the first one here says, someone asks you to stop being friends with somebody else. The second one says, someone tells you to call another child stupid. And the last one says, someone asks you for help tying their shoelace. I've also popped this screen up, and this is what I want you to complete at home. So here we've got that someone asks you to stop being friends with somebody else. And in this box, I want you to tell me what should you do, and here, what should you say? This says someone tells you to call another child stupid. What should you do? What should you say? And someone asks you to help tie their shoe. What should you do? And what should you say? So have a little think about exploring those situations. You don't have to record it down in this grid if you don't want to. You can just have a little chat with somebody at home and send me in a little video of what you think you should do or you should say during these different situations. But I want you to think back to what we discussed at the start of this. I'm just going to flick that screen on with those words that we've been exploring. So think about a good friend being respectful, polite, inclusive, and a good listener. Okay, so making sure that we're not leaving people out, that we're not excluding people, and use these key words to have a go at thinking about what we should do and what we should say in these different situations. There's no right or wrong answers. I just want you to consider what you think you should do when these situations arise, because I think it's really, really important that we're thinking about how we interact with our friends and how we make good decisions that are kind for everybody. So don't forget to send me in some examples of what you have done today and what your thoughts are on this. And I can't wait to see all the super thought processes you've had and all the different suggestions you've had when these sort of things happen with your friends. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.